Hello, guys. Good morning. Uh, this morning, we are going to review the DEPED Order number 31, series of 2020, entitled Interim Guidelines for Assessment and Grading in Light of the Basic Education and Learning Continuity Plan. This DEPED Order provides for the interim guidelines for assessment and grading in light of the Basic Education Learning Continuity Plan, or BELCP, that will be implemented by all public and secondary, elementary and secondary schools nationwide. Private schools, technical and vocational institutions, higher education institutions, including the state and local universities and colleges, offering the K-12 basic education program. They are all encouraged to implement these interim policy guidelines, as well as the private schools and institutions that are permitted to modify these policy guidelines according to their policy, their philosophy, vision, and mission, with approval of the respective DepEd regional office. The DepEd is committed to ensure educational continuity in this time of crisis when looking after the health, safety, and well-being of its learners, teachers, and personnel. The schools must adopt assessment and grading practices that can most meaningfully support student development and respond to varied contexts at this time. Teachers, the school leaders, learners, and parents must commit to uphold the integrity of learning and instruction in the context of distance education. The main desired outcomes of this policy are to ensure that all learners are fairly assessed and graded in the continuation of education during this health crisis, and to emphasize that learning standards shall be attained with the provisions of reasonable leniency and considerations for possible difficulties met by the learner. The distance learning poses challenges for teachers and learners in the conduct of assessment, including limitations of giving immediate feedback and the need to account for different contexts in designing, implementing, and grading assessment tasks. To address these challenges, learners, teachers, and parents, including the guardians, each have significant roles and responsibilities. For the teachers, this particularly focus on the following: designing the assessment to allow for flexibility in multiple modalities. Second, communicating to learners and parents, guardians, the design and standards for grading the assessment. Next is setting up mechanisms to monitor and record progress remotely, giving timely, constructive, and relevant feedback, and facilitating remediation for learners who need further guidance. For the parents and guardians, the DepEd aims to develop independent learners who can study and work on assessment on their own. However, in this school year's implementation of distance learning modalities, Parents and guardians will play a crucial role in guiding their children in adapting to the changes of distance learning processes. In distance learning modalities, teachers shall design assessments bearing the assumption that the learners will asynchronously take them and have open access to various sources. Formative assessment is about getting better, so it should be specific, frequent, repetitive, and free from the restrictions of grading. It should target skills that are necessary to the attainment of learning competencies as measured in summative assessment. To evaluate student learning at particular points in each quarter. Summative assessment shall continue in the form of written works and performance tasks. So written works and performance tasks are the summative used at the end. Written works and performance tasks shall be administered to assess the content and performance or performance standards that describe the knowledge, abilities, and skills that the learners are expected to demonstrate. This task could be designed to include the following. Written works shall be administered to assess essential knowledge and understanding through quizzes and long or the unit tests. Items should be distributed across the cognitive process dimensions using a combination of selected response and constructed response format so that all are adequately covered. Written works and performance tasks shall be administered to assess the content and performance standards that describe the knowledge, abilities, and skills that learners are expected to demonstrate. These tasks could be designed to include the following. Letter A, the student's learning portfolio that documents all the evidence of learning within the grading period, including self-reflection, self-evaluations of performance tasks guided by rubrics, and self-selected best outputs in learning modules. Letter B, minimum of 4 written works and 4 performance tasks within the quarter, preferably 1 in 2 weeks, integrating 2 or more competencies. And letter C, all competencies should be covered by the performance tasks. A performance task can be used to assess science, math, and English all together for certain topics. So remember that students' portfolio should have self-reflections, self-evaluations, and the best outputs in module or in modules. The performance tasks refer to assessment tasks that allow learners to allow or to show what they know and they're able to do in diverse ways. They may create or innovate products or do performance-based tasks, including skills demonstrations, group presentations, oral work, multimedia presentations, and research projects. It is important to note that written outputs may also be considered as performance tasks. In grading and promotion, the student's learning portfolio that documents all the evidence of learning within the grading period, including self-reflections, self-evaluation of performance tasks guided by the rubrics and self-selected best outputs in the learning module. Minimum of 4 written works and 4 performance tasks within the quarter, preferably 1 in 2 weeks, integrating 2 or more competencies. All competencies should be covered by the performance tasks. So performance tasks can be used to assess science, math, and English altogether for certain topics. The quarterly examination were given a weight of 20% concerning DEPED Order Number 8, Series of 2015. Since it will no longer be a part of the grading system for the school year, its previously determined weight was distributed equally into written works and performance tasks, allotting an additional 10% to its component. This maintained an emphasis on the performance tasks. So this is the weight distribution of the summative assessment components per learning area for grades 1 to grade 10, so grade 7 to grade 10. So these are the weights. For the assessment component, the written works in language, in aral Pilipinan, and questions per katao is 40%. In science and math, for the written works is 50%. And in MACP is 30%. For performance task in language, AP, and education sa pagkakatawa, ESP, 60%. So 60-40 for the language, AP, and ESP. 40% for the written works, 60% for the performance tasks. In science and mathematics, 50% for the written works, 50% for the performance tasks. In MAPI, KAP, and TLA, 30% for the written works and 70% for the performance task. So this is the sample of math and science in grades 1 to 10. So the written works, 50%. If you have the 4 weeks, then you have to add total and score, PS, is 100. The weighted average is 50%. For the performance task, you have the 4 weeks, total of 4 weeks. For the 4 weeks time, there's a total, and the PS is 100. The possible score is 100, and the weighted average is 50%. So the initial grade is 100, and the quarterly grade is 100. This is for the highest possible score. For the actual learner score, in every week you have to total. For example, in the first week you have 18, second week is 22, the third week is 20, the fourth week is 17, so the total is 77. Okay. The possible score is, or the PS is 91. Okay. So this is 50%. So 50% of 91 is 45.5. And the performance tasks, same. The first week, the learner got 12. Second week, got 13. And the third week, got 19. And in the fourth week, got 15 with a total of 56 with a PS of 75. And the 50% 75 is 37.5. So you have to add the weighted average of written works 45.5 with the weighted average of the performance task 37.5. So the initial is 83. The initial of 83. And based on the transmutation table, okay, so based on the transmutation table, the 83 initial grade will be transmuted to 89. So the quarterly grade is 89. Okay, so that's the transmutation. Okay, transmutation grade in the quarter is 89. The weight distribution of summative assessment components for senior high school. This is for the senior high school. The assessment components like the written works for the core subjects is 40%, and for the performance task is 60%. So that's 60-40 for the core subjects. Okay, 40% for the written works and 60% for the core subjects. And now the weight distribution of summative assessment components for senior high school for the academic track. The assessment components, the written works for all other subjects is 40%, and for work immersion, research, business, and simulation performance is 50%. This is for the academic track. Okay, the performance task is 60, and for the work immersion is 50. So all other subjects in the academic track is 40% for the written work, and performance task is 60. That's 60-40. For the work immersion, research, business, simulation, performance, 50% written work, and the performance task is 50%. Now, the weight distribution of summative assessment components for the TVL, no? So the senior high school, the technical, vocational, and livelihood, including the sports arts and design tracks. For the written works, for all other subjects, no, is 40 and performance is 60. So 40-60. Written works 40%, performance task 60%. The work immersion 30-70. 30% for the written works and 70% for the performance task. So how to conduct the assessment remotely? You have to communicate the assessment task. In communicating the assessment task, teachers must ensure that the following details are explained: objectives of the assessment task, the roles of the learner, the procedures, unexpected timeline, standards, and the rubrics. The teacher must consult the learners, and when necessary, parents guardian to allow room for adjustment flexibilities needed if Amen. The collection and recording of evidence of learning is integral for monitoring student learning and development. Here are some sample strategies for recording learners' progress. We have here the self-monitoring tool, where we consider the needs of learner per case stage. In early grades, need assistance from parents, while older learners are expected to accomplish self-reflection tools on their own. Another, check-ins of teacher with learner during the assessment period. And evidence of learning in the student's learning portfolio. And this is an example of the self-monitoring tool. Okay. The role of technology. Technology plays an important role. It plays a substantial role in helping teachers in development communication, implementation, and grading of assessment tasks. There are classification or types of relevant assessment resource. There is low tech, there is medium tech or medium technology, and high technology. Here are the samples of uh, the low technology. The low technology examples are the following. Printed supplemental activities and assessments pick up from school or delivered to home, like flashcards, pop-up books, posters, comics, creative self-evaluation questions at the end of each topic, multicolored that represent level of understanding per page of submitted module, rubrics, and road discussion. For the medium technology, bite-sized assessment through SMS, text examples of summaries, photo drawing, voice memo, self-evaluation, questions or reflection questions, bite-sized comics, radio, TV plugins like CD, DVDs, and USB, storage containing all small size assessments. For the high technology, the PDF format assessment created using an iPad, a tablet, or laptop, or a desktop computer through the following apps and softwares. Word, Pages, PowerPoint, Keynote, Excel, books. Formative and summative assessment access from local online open source, like DEPED Commons. Digital assessments, ebook, video, audio, or image format. Next formative assessment and dynamic media created through sites and tools like Kotobe, the ThinkLink, Luncy, and Ipasa. For the feedback and remediation, now to benefit student learning, both formative and summative assessment must be accompanied with timely, constructive, and meaningful feedback based on the learner's record of progress. In giving feedback, teachers' record of progress. In giving feedback, teachers need to maximize available communication options like writing feedback on the output, texting feedback via SMS, and using online channels, among others. Consistent with the DEPED Order Number 8, Series of 2015, teachers should ensure that learners receive remediation or that learners need remediation, must receive remediation. When they earn raw scores, where are constantly below expectations in summative assessment by the fifth of week of any quarter, this will prevent a student from failing in any learning area at the end of the year. For monitoring evaluation, uh, in the DEPED Order Number 8 since 2015, the field policy guidelines on classroom assessment for K to 12 basic education is still in effect, but its provisions inconsistent with these guidelines are suspended for this school year and the coming school year. Lastly, this is the word to ponder for today. Learners need endless feedback more than they need than endless teaching. I repeat, learners need endless feedback more than they need endless teaching. Just remember, in student learning, both formative and summative assessment must be accompanied with timely, constructive, and meaningful feedbacks. So that ends our review of the DepEd Order Number 31, Series of 2020, the Interim Guidelines of Assessment in light of the basic education learning complete. Thank you for watching and have a nice day. Bye.